So growing up, I had an old VHS tape of which contained several hours of footage of the Three Stooges. I would guess that some of you in this room might know the comedy trio to which I'm referring. But for those of you who don't, the Three Stooges were an American vaudeville and comedy team active from 1922 to 1970, and they are most well known for their 190 short films, which have regularly aired on television since 1958. One of my favorite memories of the Three Stooges is an episode where Larry, Moe, and Shemp are running a tailor shop. Larry is in the back of the shop, and he has a pair of pants that have a rather sizable stain on them. And so Larry begins to scrub the stain, and nothing happens. So he tries again, this time with a little more vigor. Still nothing happens. He works a third time, this time with some soda water, and really puts some elbow grease into it, and yet nothing happens. The stain just won't go away. "That is the toughest stain I ever saw," exclaims Larry. No matter what Larry tries, he's unable to remove the stain. In a way, our text for today deals with the subject of stains. No, it's not a pair of pants in need of some attention, but it's more of an inner stain that resides in the heart of God's people. We find ourselves in exile. We are in the land of Babylon, serving a new empire. Ezekiel's prophecy takes place in captivity, since he and thousands of other Israelites were taken from their homes about 10 years before the destruction of Jerusalem. Now Ezekiel is in the thick of life in Babylon. And in the midst of being in life there, God calls him to be a watchman to the nation of Israel, to speak God's words. So when we come to our text for this morning, Ezekiel is pretty tired, both physically and emotionally. More so than any of the other prophets, God has taken Ezekiel through the ringer. Here's a list of some of the things that have happened to Ezekiel. First, he's instructed to eat a scroll. He's made mute for a time. He's told to lay on his left side for 390 days, and after that to lay on his right side for 40 days. If you've been following along in our year of the Bible and been reading along, then you will know all about Ezekiel's bread. But we won't mention that here. In addition to all of this, he is called to remind Israel of their sins and their shortcomings. So amid Ezekiel's petitions, God delivers this message of hope. We read words of comfort to Ezekiel and words of restoration for Israel. God will not forget Israel forever, nor will the people be scattered forever. God says to Ezekiel, "I will gather you from the peoples and assemble you from the countries where I have scattered you. You will come back to where I am and where I dwell, and you will cleanse my dwelling place, the temple. I will unite all of Israel, and I will give you a new heart and a new spirit. Then you will come and worship." What a beautiful picture of restoration. One commentator noted that return to the land is made possible by an inner transformation, a new heart and a new spirit, by virtue of an unanticipated and unmerited act of grace. During Israel's rebellion and moral shortcomings, God comes and offers the people new life. The summons to new life doesn't contain any attachments or strings that we know of. God doesn't say to the people, first clean yourselves up, stop sinning, and obey me. God says to the people, I'll make the first move to restoring our relationship. I will remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh which beats with life. I will give you my spirit so you will know what is pleasing to me. United with a new heart and a new spirit, you will desire to be with me. God takes our stains and makes them clean. Unlike Larry scrubbing away to no avail, God comes and does what only God can do. I bet some of us can empathize with the Israelites. I don't mean to say that we've ever had the displeasure of being taken away into exile, but I would imagine there have been times in our lives when we've looked at ourselves and felt like we don't measure up. In the exile, the people of God are reminded again and again that they are here because of the things they have grown to love and the things that they have neglected to love. Sometimes they chased after other gods. Sometimes they found more freedom and joy in the things around them than they did in the presence of the God who rescued their ancestors from Egypt, led them from the wilderness, gave them a land flowing with milk and honey, and whose presence dwelt in the temple. If we're honest with ourselves, we might know that we all have those things in our lives that captivate our imaginations and fight for our allegiances. We know that our lives need tending to, like a garden that has become overgrown with weeds. So we have some soul tending that needs to be done. But like the exiles in Ezekiel's day, we are in need of restoration and the grace which only God can provide. Left to our own devices, we will cling to old hearts. So God makes the first move by offering us new life. God comes to us just as we are. I want to share a story with you. It's a story that I'm sure some of you have heard before, but like all good stories, it needs to be told again and again. In his novel, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, C.S. Lewis tells us the story of Lucy and Edmund Pevensey and their cousin, Eustace Shrub, who go on adventures with Prince Caspian in the land of Narnia. It's an Odyssey-like adventure on the high seas. During their voyage, they are temporarily shipwrecked after a rather nasty storm. While everyone is at work, busy repairing the ship, Eustace slinks away to avoid doing any chores. You see, Eustace is not a nice person. He likes bossing and bullying people around, especially his cousins. We see time and time again that he is selfish and a little bit rotten. While wandering the island, Eustace discovers a large cave which seems to belong to a dragon that just recently died. He decides to investigate the cave, and lo and behold, he finds a hoard of secret treasure. He begins to fill his pockets with coins and jewels, and then an item draws his attention. It's this large gold bracelet, which is so big he has to put it on his arm above his elbow. It begins to rain outside, so before returning to the ship, Eustace decides to take a nap in the cave. To his horror, when he wakes up, he's no longer a boy. He's become a dragon. Eustace, with his dragon-like heart, only thought of rewards and riches. He never thought about consequences of his actions. And now the damage has been done. He attempts to remove the bracelet from his arm, hoping that by doing so he will become a boy again, but he's unsuccessful. He's in pain, and he doesn't know what to do. There doesn't seem like much hope. In the story, he remains a dragon for a time, not ever expecting to return to his former self. But one night, Aslan, the great lion, appears before him and invites him to follow after. So Eustace follows behind this lion up a mountain. When he reaches the top, he sees a clearing with beautiful trees and fruit and all sorts of majesty and wonder. In the middle of all this is a great well bubbling with water. Aslan instructs Eustace to undress himself and then to enter into the water. So Aslan says, "Stop being a dragon. Shed that hard exterior you're carrying and cleanse yourself." So Eustace does what only he thinks to do and begins to scratch at his skin until it comes off. But every time he looks down at himself, he sees more skin. He continues to claw and shed his skin, but to no avail. His scales remain. No matter what he does or how hard he tries, his scales won't come off. It's like a stain that he just can't remove. So finally, Aslan says to Eustace, "You know what? I'll undress you." Anxious and desperate, Eustace submits to the lion. And Aslan begins to tear away at his scales, and it hurts more than he can imagine. But soon the lion has completely undressed him. Without warning, Aslan grabs Eustace and tosses him into the well. When he emerges, he's not a dragon anymore. He's a boy again, with a new set of clothes. The lion had done for him what he could not do for himself. Friends, just like Eustace, just like the people of Israel, we too have some dragon scales down in our souls. Through this journey in Lent, we might have experienced those moments of deep reflection, and we might not have liked what we've learned about ourselves. And perhaps the story of Israel in the prophets hasn't brought us the comfort for which we long. As we read and study and reflect, we can empathize with them, recognizing our own brokenness. Maybe the words of Larry ring true for us. That is the toughest stain I ever saw. However you may feel this day, the promises of God remain true. God comes to us in these moments of unmerited grace, offering us new life, a heart of flesh. God continues to come to us day after day, making all things new. In Jesus Christ, our God has shown us the depths of unconditional love that summons us to come and be where God is. And friends, there is no expectation of piety or faithfulness from God which isn't first grounded in the love of God. So as we continue on this journey of Lent, let us be captivated by the life-giving love which God has shown us. Amen.